Once again, we're broadcasting from radio station KUCB. Here, where our motto is, we communicate to educate and organize, and truth is the wealth of freedom. This segment, we want to just talk about, just kind of briefly go over some injustices and police misconduct and police brutality that has taken place here in Des Moines, Iowa. We have a number of cases we should say, that have went on here over the years. We can go all the way back to the early 70s up until this point. And in the early 70s, there was a young man by the name of Archie Simmons who was murdered by the Des Moines Police Department here. And this took place on University Avenue. This was back in the early 70s. We had a young man by the name of Clarence Jackson who was murdered back during that period, who was shot in the police car chase, shot through the back of the car, shot him to death in the police chase in a car. He was about 15 years of age. We had the murder of John Monroe Branch that took place in the early 80s. He was murdered in his sister's front yard on Garfield. We had the murder of John Sharp, who was in police custody, supposedly on his way to being taken to jail, and accidentally he ended up dying in custody. We call it murder because that's what it is. The murder of Charles Dudley, who was murdered and shot to death on 16th Street here in Des Moines, Iowa. We had Joe Mazee, who was shot to death on the south side. He was shot to death by a Des Moines police officer. So we've had a number of cases that have taken place here in Des Moines, Iowa. And the question always comes to mind, and we're talking about injustice. This is our main topic. The question always comes to mind is that how is it that you can, and even in all the other places where police injustice and police murder has taken place, how is it that you have all of these groups, you have all these individuals that usually come together? It's no different here in Des Moines, Iowa. It's no different. And somehow, I understand the importance of stopping the violence and getting young people or getting people in general to stop the violence that goes on in the neighborhoods and the communities. But how is it that you miss the opportunity, if you will, of saying something about these police officers who murder people and the murder that they carry out and the violence that they carry out? Somehow that's always not mentioned. Everything else is mentioned, but somehow we never get to mentioning that. I don't know if we're afraid to mention it. I don't know that we feel that we shouldn't mention it. I don't know what the reasons are that we do this. But so many meetings and so many gatherings they have, they never mention anything about justice being served on these police officers who murder people. Never once, you know? And so I just find that amazing how we can talk about everything else, but we never talk about bringing these police officers to justice who murder people. And it could be in Ferguson, Missouri, it could be in LA, it could be in Detroit, it could be in New York, it could be here in Des Moines, Iowa, it could be in New Orleans, any of the places you want to name. There's never once a push, a movement to bring police officers to justice who murder people. And never once. The closest maybe we came to that was in the 1980s. There was a movement here in Des Moines, Iowa to perform a citizen review board. And it's funny how nobody mentions that anymore. It's like we came to arrived at a point where we don't that cry is no longer there. Well, there's a need for it because clearly The police officers in this country, in Des Moines, Iowa, no different, no other place, they're out of control. Now, when the community, or young people, or people out of control, they usually have some measures to get everything under control. But what kind of measure is there when police officers are out of control, when they murder and brutalize people? What kind of measures is it to serve notice on them, to try them, to charge them? What kind of notice is being served on them? Because up until this day, I haven't seen anything that takes place, anything that even moves in that direction. And what good does it do to have all the community meetings you want to? You can have all the groups and organizations that you want to. And you can meet with city officials, you can meet with government officials, you can meet with council members, you can meet with even some of the law enforcement. But what good does it do if in that gathering, in that meeting, in that discussion, there's no move, there's no order to bring about prosecution to try these police officers who murder people? What good is all those meetings and all the gatherings? Once again, we're talking about injustice as it relates to police officers murdering people here in Des Moines, Iowa. We'll be right back. Once again, you listen to KUCB, where our motto is truth is the wealth of freedom, and we communicate to educate and organize.